Hi everyone, today I want to highlight 10 Neovim features that you might not know about. First of all, the list was made with these rules in mind. So the feature must be built into Neovim or Vim, it should work without any plugins, and it should be useful for actual editing of the files. Ideally, this is something that you might not know, but this is obviously hard to judge. If you are a seasoned Vim user or Neovim user, then some of this will be obvious, but if you're new, this might look like magical incantation. Don't worry, it takes time to get Neovim into your muscle memory, but when you do, text editing is getting easier and is also fun. One word of caution, a lot of Neovim users, definitely myself, are obsessed with efficiency. We really want to get the least amount of keystrokes to get something done and do it in an elegant way. Trying this at home is definitely fun, but don't get too hung up on it. After 30 to 40 years of constant practice, you will get it. All right, the first trick I want to show you is using a shell filter. One of the superpowers of Neovim is that it is essentially a very advanced TUI. So it is a tool that integrates natively with your terminal, which means you can use command line tools and other shell facilities right inside of your terminal. You probably already know about the command line mode. However, exclamation mark is an operator that lets you work with command lines much easier. Let's see this in action. First of all, how can we insert a date? We can use just a date command. So here you can see me opening another Tmax pane, and typing date just gives us a current date. I can type exclamation mark dot for current line. At the bottom you see a mini peek, which is another module from a superhero of Neovim community, Evgeny, who creates this mini AI and mini NVim and all kinds of mini modules, which are super useful plugins. I'm using here this one to just take a peek into the shell output. If I type date, you can see that suddenly we have the output of the date command right into our buffer. We can go here to this paragraph and notice that I could highlight it VIP, which is selecting inside of the paragraph, but I can also directly use the exclamation mark operator with the text object. So exclamation mark IP will drop me into the command line, and this is this weird notation. Dot stands for current line, then comma opens up a range, dot is another current line, and +3. It's a weird and Neovim way of notating the lines that we have essentially selected for our command. And here I can type sort using a regular sort command line. So this was pretty nice. Now, if I want to just operate on the current line, double bang gets me there. So bang bang and then JQ dot enables me to nicely format any JSON within the file. So 3 quick examples how we can use the exclamation mark operator to quickly get dropped into the command mode, and then we can use command line tools right on our text. All right, the next one is using G and Control A and other ways to increment and create numbers. So it's very, very easy in Neovim to create a numbered list. You can see here I have just a paragraph. I can do something like this. So again, select everything, and I can do norm. I will talk about norm a little bit later, and I for insert, and let's say 0, dot, and space. So now I insert this kind of 0 dots for my list, but we don't want the list starts from 0. We want it to start from 1 and progressively go like that. So I can do GV for reselect what I have previously visually selected, and then G and Control A. And you can see that Neovim immediately increments the whole list and just adds it one by one. There's quite a lot of more you can do with lists and the combination of those, but I hope it's easy now to see that the typical tasks that you would normally take time to do with mouse and keyboard take just a little bit of magic incantations in Neovim. All right, third one is using G. G is a really powerful command. It enables you essentially to execute any external or internal command in Neovim on the searched results. So let's see this in action. Here I have some to-dos, and if I want to delete every to-do, I can write a macro, I can just manually delete it, but with G it's much easier. So I'm dropping to G, to-do, and then /D, which is a delete shortcut for delete command. And when I do this, you can see that all the lines that contained to do in this case are removed. So let's revert it. Another one example that a good example that I want to show you is that you can also execute any arbitrary keystroke or series of keystrokes using the norm command, which is super powerful in and of itself. So let's imagine that I want to append semicolon to all the lines that start with func. Super easy. Let's drop here, start with func, and then we essentially say norm. We can do also norm, if I can type, with exclamation marks, which means if I have rebound A to something else, it wouldn't process my bindings, but it would process the regular A, which is a good thing to do. A and semicolon. And then you can see that now we added semicolon to every line. So you can imagine this is extremely useful and makes the text editing a breeze. Another one is using registries. Neovim has a lot of built-in registries. Registries are like special places where various copied text and copied expressions are present. Neovim has a bunch of named registries that you can use from 0 to 9, and it also has a bunch of special registries, which makes working with text a little bit easier. So let's imagine that I want to just use the word like maybe, demo, right? So I have this word demo and I want to just use it in replace. So if it's under my cursor, I can simply go here and do this S for replace, and I can do this like that, Control R, Control W, and you can see that it inserts the word under cursor. So very, very easy way of kind of getting what you want from under the cursor. Another one that is useful is that we could do Control R and then / for what we searched earlier. So you can see that we searched, we put a search term, carrot func earlier, and it preserved it and we could do it. This also works in insert mode. So I can, for example, go here and do Control R and then do equals for expression. And expression register is very special because it evaluates whatever you put there. So we can perform a simple mathematical operation. So 10 times 10, for example. Oh, this is invalid. Let's try this one more time. So 5, I think x wasn't the right one, so 9 minus 9 would be 0. And that should work here, and we have 0 here. So you can do quite a lot with registries, and it's not what I've seen Neovim users do, or people ask me often, is that they just use the basic quote register rather than using the other ones. Finally, we are at norm, which you've seen a little bit earlier, and this is really useful to execute any commands on visual selection. So we can go here, select this, and like earlier, we've seen that we can use A, we can use also other things. So if I want to quickly make a list out of it, I can maybe do something like this, just drop down here, you can see the selection, and I can type norm, and then do capital I, just normal keystroke that drops me into the beginning of the line in insert mode, and I can do minus and space, which will make it a bullet point list. Very, very easy way of executing this on visual selection, and you can execute any any keystroke here. Doing a little bit more of G commands. I will dedicate a whole separate video about G commands because they are really flexible, kind of a flexible interface in Neovim itself. So this is the same file that we just edited. I can, for example, do GI, and it goes into the last edited word. So Neovim holds the history of edits and changes, and you can see that I was editing this. I mean, you don't know, but I was editing this word earlier, and Neovim just jumped there. I can do also things like G colon and G comma to move between changes. You've seen me earlier doing this, selecting a paragraph, for example, and then doing GV for reselecting it. So there's quite a lot of things you can do with G, and something like help G will show you all kinds of things you can do with it. Okay, perfect. So moving on is marks. Marks also I found to be a little bit underused, but they are super powerful, especially if you want to do things programmatically. So let's look at it. First mark that is very nice to know is that if you have a jump position, like, I am, somewhere here in text and I can change something and save it, I go, let's say, to the top or the bottom, and if I hit backtick, it takes me back to the last edited character. This is very nice. I can also do backtick and dot, which takes me to the last line, which is similar. Then if I would close this file, and after opening it, I would like to go to the last position where my cursor was, I can do backtick and quotation. So there's various ways where you can mark things inside Neovim and make it more than just having a bookmark. So it's also scriptable. What you can also do, which is quite nice, let's say I want to mark this as A, so MA, and then I'm going to go to the next paragraph and mark it as B. And then I can do something like go to replacement and say between A, so A and between B, I want to replace the word spans with something else. Not sure it didn't work, but what it does, it helps you to, I think it was maybe space needed here. I'm going into live debugging here, but what it does, it enables you to essentially replace content between two markers, which is an alternative for visual selection. I would have to visually select those and maybe replace content like this, but with markers, I can do this with replacing it like that. So some interesting markers. And finally, we have also all the commands that we've used earlier. So normally when you go to Neovim and want to execute command, like, let's say ls for showing all the buffers, you just do as I did. So you go to colon and just type something. But the command itself has a history. So it is a small buffer that you can access using Q and colon. So you can see that we have our failed span attempts here and all the commands that we executed earlier. This list is editable. So I could do things like I for edit, and I could change something, maybe something that would make it work. So if I would hit enter, escape and enter, it would execute this command again. I can also do the same from command line, and I can do Control F, which would take me to the same list. Control C would bring me back to the edit here. So it's very useful to kind of see this little history of commands where you can search for commands that you did and copy paste them, edit them, adjust them, so you don't have to always start from scratch. This is more of a setting rather than a command, but it's very useful and it's available in Neovim. I don't remember from which version, but it's a Neovim setting. So again, if we go here, if I want to substitute like this fox with cat, so I do this, one more time, this as, and then do fox, you can see that at the bottom here, it shows me the word that I'm searching for. And if I do here cat, it shows me in the preview and in the file as well. So it's very useful. If the file would be larger, then it would show me all the lines that are being changed. So if it doesn't fit in the buffer, in the window, then I could see it. So that's a very nice setting to have, so you can see what results changes would have. And finally, I think this is very little known, but also really interesting if you want to especially programmatically or with macros do something. So there are commands T and M that you can execute in normal mode on a given set of lines to copy or move them. So first of all, I am now in line 9, and I can essentially use this T here, T dot, it will duplicate the current line. So T essentially copies. So I'm copying and pasting current line. I can do the same. I can take, for example, this line 1, so dot, T, and $sign is copying the line to the bottom of the file. So I can also do this with numbers of the lines. So I can be somewhere here, and I can do like this, and we remember that was line 9, T, and this. So from where my cursor was at the top, I can manipulate lines by numbers. And finally, I can move lines. So let's take this line 1, and I can take and move it by +1. So I'm just essentially moving it after the line 2. I can also manipulate ranges like this, and it's just a really nice way of manipulating lines directly, especially in macros, or if you programmatically access your buffer. So T and M. And a bonus 11th trick is using remote Neovim. Neovim is exposing or can expose a server. If you start Neovim with the server flag, Neovim uses a socket, and you can essentially communicate between a server instance and an instance that listens, and you can remotely send commands from one Neovim instance, or just using Neovim as a command line tool, to another one. This is very useful for SSH, for broadcasting multiple commands, or if you're using AI, you can tell your AI to do something in Neovim, which in my opinion defeats the whole fun, but it's possible. So let's see how it works. So you could see now on the left-hand side, we just have a file. So we have remote Neovim demo and a little bit of an explanation how it works. And on the right-hand side here, I have a command prepared that says, my server is sending to this Neovim demo socket that the other file started with, and I'm sending a command. So I'm doing GG, which is a normal command, going to the beginning of the line, and then I'm just typing hash and inserted remotely and escaping. So let's see if this works. So let me zoom out, and you can see at the top of the file we have nothing here. And if I execute this command, we have suddenly inserted remotely. So let's make it a little bit more interesting. So you remember we had also earlier, we talked about using the GG, not G, so G global command. So I can do command G. Maybe I want to find all the lines that start with NVIM or contain NVIM, and I want to delete them. And then to confirm it, I'm sending the CR code, which is the code for enter. So now you can see that suddenly all the lines that contain the word Neovim are gone from our file. And finally, if we want to, I can just send W command with CR as well to save the buffer. And you can see that the buffer has been saved here. So it's written to the buffer. This has a number of benefits, especially in shell environments, but you can also remotely work with your current Neovim remote sessions in Tmax, for example, or others. I've used it for some advanced editing as well. All right. So let me close this and quickly recap some of the interesting things we learned about. So exclamation mark, Control A with G, Control R, norm, I think it's really interesting, and TNM as well. I hope some of those were new to you and you learned something from the video, and you will pick one or two and integrate it with your workflow. Is there anything else that you're using and I didn't cover? Any other tips you have? I would definitely like to know. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.